I'm Norman Liss, and the name of the program is The Way to Go. I invite you to join me each week at this time as we explore places to go and things to do in this area. Today we're going to be exploring a wonderful museum, the Neuberger Museum of Art on the campus of SUNY Purchase. And my guest today is the director of the Neuberger, Lucinda Gedeon. I'm so glad that you could join us today, Cindy, and we're going to talk about this wonderful museum. What makes the Neuberger Museum so special?
Well, we like to think of it as a city museum in the country. By virtue of its scale and its collections, it's really an extraordinary place, and I think Westchester is very fortunate to have it.
What do you mean by a city museum? I know what you mean by the country because we've got all these parking facilities and don't have to worry about a great deal of traffic,
Right.
But what do you mean by a city museum?
Well, first of all, we have a facility that's over 78,000 square feet. Over 30,000 square feet of that space is used for exhibitions and changing shows. In addition to that, though, we have a permanent collection of over 5,000 objects, primarily American art, but also inclusive of the African cultures as well. So we have a wonderful African collection, a constructivist collection, an ancient Greek vase collection, and it's just quite extraordinary.
The physical facilities of the museum itself allow you to do things that perhaps other museums are not able to do.
Yes, very definitely. We have two main gallery spaces that we use for most of our traveling exhibitions, one of which is called our theater gallery. It's 20 feet high. It's a gallery space of over 5,000 square feet and allows for the most remarkable changing in terms of exhibition design. So we can virtually do anything we want in there.
Oh, I've seen some exhibits in there which I don't know that I've been able to see anywhere else because they just can't handle it. Why don't we talk a little bit about some of the things that you've done in the past?
Okay. Well, we often become the main venue, the New York venue, that is, for a number of traveling exhibitions by virtue of having this scale installation on space. In terms of the theater gallery, one of the things we've been able to do is the wall murals, for example, of Cleve Gray, which were designed for this space. This is over 140 feet of mural installation that encompasses all of the walls of that space. We've been able to bring in via rigor huge large-scale sculptures and actually have an internal sculpture garden, if you will.
I've often thought about that. How do you get those things in there? they're so big.
Well, the facility was very well designed by Philip Johnson at the time that SUNY was created. And the back door to the museum, we call it the cemetery door. It's outside of a 17th century cemetery that is on the campus of SUNY Purchase. They created a special transom in the top so that though it's a normal door, generally, we can actually take out a pin and open it up so that the door itself becomes approximately 8 by 24 feet.
I remember I once did a backstage tour of the Museum of Natural History, and they took us into this enormous elevator and asked, why do you think we have an elevator so big? And they said, it has to be big enough for an elephant.
Yeah. That's not quite our case, but almost. Some of the sculpture that we've displayed is probably many, many tons, as an elephant might be.
When you talk about these mural type of exhibits, where else can they be shown? There aren't that many museums around the country or in the world, perhaps, that can handle something of this size.
No, that's true, and so we're very fortunate in that respect. Normally, when you see something like that on display, it's because a special room has been built for it. At the Contemporary Museum in Honolulu, for example, the David Hockney murals, there was a special room created as an addendum to the museum to handle that space, just like the Rothko Chapel. It's a separate entity that's built specifically for the space.
And are some of the exhibits actually done there or assembled there for the first time? Oh,
most definitely. Most definitely. In addition to the permanent collection that's on permanent display, we have a series of 16 changing shows. So anytime anybody comes, we try to have something new for them to see.
So it's more than once a month, actually. You
yes.
have something that's changing.
Yes. I would say every 4 to 6 weeks, a visitor would have a new exhibition collection to view in one portion of the gallery or another.
So someone would not say, well, I've been to the Neuberger, I don't have to go there again.
No, we try to get people for return visits certainly all the time.
But then you also have something that's there all the time,
Yes.
and that ties into this major exhibit in July, which you have there. You have an enormous Neuberger collection.
Yes.
And why don't we talk about how the museum first came to be,
Okay.
and Roy Neuberger's role in it.
Right. He's an amazing, amazing man, a collector par excellence, if you will. And he's more than a collector. He's truly a patron of the arts. This is a man who is turning 90 this year. We are celebrating his birthday with the show that you mentioned, who has been collecting art seriously collecting art since the mid-30s to the late 30s. He amassed a marvelous collection of primarily American modernism. It was his intent to patronize American art and artists and American institutions. Beginning in '39, he started buying in quite extensive quantity, as I mentioned, and within 4 years, he started giving that away. He
was supporting young artists.
Yes, artists of his time.
Who perhaps were not recognized.
Very distinctly so.
But
very
have
distinctly so.
since that time...
Yes. I think the collection speaks for itself with that regard.
Let's talk about some of the people whose work is in that permanent collection.
Well, beginning in the 30s, he has Stuart Davis. He has some Georgia O'Keeffe, a marvelous landscape by Georgia O'Keeffe. He's got a hopper that a number of museums covet. And then moving through those decades, because he continued to collect and continued to give to major institutions around the country before the Neuberger opened.
He was, of course, a prime supporter of Avery.
Milton Avery, yes.
Of course.
One of his favorite artists. In the course of his collecting, he acquired over 130 of Milton Avery's paintings, of which the Neuberger Museum now has 32. Some of the others are still in his private collection, and many of them have been distributed to university museums and museums around the country.
So what happened? Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland say, let's put on a show, let's have a museum. How did it all start? How did the Neuberger start?
It was the vision of Nelson Rockefeller when he first started SUNY Purchase, when he determined, after examining the state system in California, that New York would also have a remarkable state university system. And as a collector and patron of the arts in his own right, he was very anxious to have a campus that was devoted to the arts. And that's basically how the Purchase campus came to be in the late 60s. It was designed with the arts in mind, though it is a school of the arts, conservatory programs, and a college of arts and science, letters and science. It does have a focus in the arts by evidence of its Performing Arts Center, which is a 4-theater complex, and the scale of the Neuberger Museum. So it was Rockefeller's vision to have this school in close proximity to New York and in the county, which was, of course, his home. He approached Roy Neuberger in 1968 about giving his collection to the campus. After some negotiation, he was convinced that this is something that he would like to do. And again, it's in line with what Roy had been doing for the prior 20 years, and that is donating works to universities.
Isn't there a story that someone had offered to buy the Neuberger art, and anonymous at the time, and it turned out when Roy Neuberger turned it down that it was really Nelson Rockefeller who was bidding for it?
Yes, it seems that that is a rumor that has gone around. But again, as a patron, he never sold anything virtually. He really believed in supporting the artist. And
so he started to give his art. First of all, he gave how many to the Neuberger Museum?
Oh, at this point in time, we have probably 1,000 works.
1,000.
That came through Mr. Neuberger.
But he also gave to many other museums around the world.
He has given over 200 objects to more than 65 institutions in 22 states before the Neuberger Museum opened in 1974.
And you curated this current exhibit celebrating his birthday. So let's talk about that now. Where did they come from, and how were they selected?
We call the show, it's Roy R. Neuberger, Patron of the Arts, a tribute. And it virtually is that, to pay homage to this man who has done so much for American art. collected lists. His secretary was marvelous. He was marvelous. His memory is absolutely like a steel trap. He knows everything. He can tell you the history of every single piece that he's collected, how he purchased it, when he purchased it, and for what he purchased it. So working with him, we developed a list of these 200 objects, and we're very conscious of wanting to represent various areas of the country that he had given to, and not just concentrate on the major museums in New York, to which he was a patron. He has served on the Met's board, for example, and has been involved with other institutions. But to really do a broad range. We also wanted to show the scope of his collection in terms of American modernism. So it was undoubtedly the case that we would have some Averys, and we do. We have about 15 Averys represented. But in addition to that, we have a marvelous Will Barnett. We show the complete range of his aesthetic eye, which is formally primarily gestural abstraction and color field painting. I mean, if we look at the collection as a whole.
This is really a unique opportunity for people to see great art
Absolutely.
in one place, and not only as a reflection of the taste and judgment of Roy Neuberger, but
Right.
just to see great art in one place.
Yes. Well, it has now stood the test of time. These paintings have stood the test of time. They're masterpieces.
And they're displayed beautifully.
Thank you.
I might say it's just great to be able to stay and stare at them in the comfort of a beautiful building in a beautiful location. We're going to look at some of the paintings that are in the exhibit, because we have with us the very fine catalog. You have it's more than I've marked off some of these so we can go to them, but it's more than just a catalog. It's a really beautifully bound book that you've done. And why don't we just start by taking a look at I think something that really sets the tone here.
Yes, it's a marvelous portrait. This is a portrait of Roy that was done by Will Barnett. Will is an artist in New York, has been painting since the mid-20s and into the 30s, and is a mainstay in the New York art world. His work is really world-renowned, and I think what this does in his style, his very geometric color field kind of style, capture Roy. I mean, this is a gentleman who works on the stock market and has been trading. He's a money trader, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, his training, his background was, before he got into this, was in art.
Yes, he went to Paris in the mid-20s, as a matter of fact, and in the thoughts of becoming an artist in his own right, and soon learned that was not going to be his goal anymore, and I think he did a lot of self-assessment.
And the secret of his success was his great judgment, of course, in being able to come up with good recommendations, and people who followed his judgment did very, very well along with him. We talked about Milton Avery, and certainly Milton Avery is part of this exhibit.
Very much so, and I think that the viewers can see, again, in terms of his, if we just compare the Barnett with the Avery works, it's still it's very abstract. It's a modern concept. It's a modern aesthetic that Roy was interested in, as well as this color field and very colorful kind of presentation. These are conscious, skilled artisans who are, with a tremendous creative imagination, and Avery was certainly in the line of Matisse, one of the finest of his school.
And Avery, was there a particular reason that he spent so much time? Was he the greatest patron of Avery, actually?
Yes, he was. I think in the long run that will be proven, and just in terms of the quantity, but also he admired Milton tremendously and was a real boon, I think, time will see, to his career, because again, having not sold any paintings, even though he bought them, reasonable, shall we say, Milton Avery's work is spread throughout 22 states of this union by virtue of Roy Neuberger's gifts.
And now we come to Stuart Davis.
Yes. One of, actually, I think Roy would have liked to have bought more of Stuart Davis as well. The retrospective that was recently at the Met was an exhibition that he visited often while it was in town. And this piece actually appeared in that retrospective as well. Stuart Davis, again, a primary American modernist who brought back from Europe in the early part of this century, that European abstract tendency.
But he changed a lot from his early days.
He did. He did.
And I suppose that's true of all artists, actually, that they're developmental in what they do and come to different styles as they go along.
There's usually a consistency, though, and I think in the great artist's work, there's a thread. There's a distinct thread that may be different subject, but
a favorite line of mine that I've said often, perhaps even on this program before, is that Picasso could paint good if he wanted to. Some of his early works are very representational.
Very much
before he started to do his experimenting and planning and setting the world on fire, really.
Well, when that personal commitment is there and that creative imagination, it can bring forth some wonderful
Let's talk about this
objects.
one now.
This is a work by Richard Diebenkorn from the mid-'50s, when Diebenkorn, before he went totally abstract with his Ocean Park series, he was a part of a school called the Bay Area Figurative Style. He's from Northern California. He was a primary artist in the Northern Bay Area region, and he, along with Nathan Oliveira and David Park, were part of a school. It again, though, when you see those bands of color in the painting and the figurative gestural style speaks much to Roy's aesthetic, I think, and is one of the primary paintings in our collection and is on view permanently in the Neuberger Museum.
Not all of the ones that we're showing, as we said before, are all in the collection here.
Right.
They do come from various places.
Davies and the Stuart Davis and Diebenkorn is now this Cleve Gray is not. The Cleve Gray belongs to the Brooklyn Museum, and we borrowed it for this show. Cleve is a probably second-generation abstract expressionist, and we mentioned a little bit earlier this mural painting that he did for the museum that fills the walls of our theater gallery. Again, abstract, gestural, lots of color and intensity in his work. Is
this a very large work, the one that we're looking at now?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that painting, it's deceptive probably in reproduction, but that painting is a good 8 feet by 8 feet.
Does he always work like that, very large?
He prefers to work large, and I think his standard canvases are in the 8 feet to 9 feet square range.
That's something that always fascinates me, is that some artists work so small and others need this huge amount of space in order to do something. Right. I think that I was surprised when I actually saw the Mona Lisa. How small it is.
How small it is. As monumental as it is.
Yes, it is something that comes as a surprise, I suppose, to a lot of people who see that. Of course, talking about abstract, we now come to one who's perhaps the most famous in terms of abstract, and someone who I have to admit I'm still trying to figure out.
A lot of people are. You're not alone in that. The whole thing with Jackson Pollock's work, this is a work from 1949, and again, it's a major work, and it's something that Roy bought in 1949. So we're looking at a man with an eye. This is long before Jackson Pollock really hit the marketplace as we know him today. He's using, of course, his famous drip technique in this painting, and it's all over gestural abstraction. And when you look at this, you have to kind of step back a little bit and understand that it's the color and the process that's the subject matter in this work. So don't try to find things that aren't there. It's the process,
which a lot of people do.
Right? It's totally non-objective.
And there's a lot of that in the work that you show at the museum, isn't it?
Yes and no. While not trying to be all things to all people, we are primarily a 20th century art museum. We're located on a campus with a conservatory program in the visual arts. We try to do at least 4 to 5 shows a year out of the 16 that are on the cutting edge, that our students will come and look at and hopefully be invigorated by, as well as we step back into the 20th century and do a broad range of aesthetic and media-based shows. So that there might be a theme show. We did one on the window some years back, which was bringing the work together of many, many 20th century artists that did a window motif. We've also had major shows of solo artists' work. We have a Mel Edwards exhibition that we're very proud of that is circulating nationally. We've done a Frasconi show that is circulating nationally. We've done a major Nancy Graves show. So we do have a broad range of aesthetics that we represent.
I think one of the ways to judge how important a museum or some attraction in the area is it a place that I would take visitors from out of town or out of country to?
I would hope so, and be proud of it.
And there are some outstanding places that I like to take people to, and one of the things that's so nice about your location is it's right across the road from PepsiCo's headquarters with its magnificent sculpture garden, which is open to the public, and it's kind of a place that's a 2-for-1 shot that you can do in one day or one afternoon and get there. And I suppose you do get a lot of people who point to the Neuberger with pride and say, look what we have here, and do that. But what is involved in curating and putting together an exhibit? First of all, we have to start with the decision, I suppose. How do you determine what you're going to be doing down the road, I suppose, 6 months, a year, 2 years hence?
Well, we developed, I've been the director now just 2 years, right. And when I first came on board, we developed a series of 8 guidelines that would in fact help us, keep the parameters on to some extent, and yet give us enough flexibility to reach a broad public. So within those parameters, there are statements such as we will present solo exhibitions of emerging artists' work. Okay, we will present thematic shows or media-based shows drawn from the collection and augmented by borrowed works. So we have some certain parameters. In the course of any 1 week, I must get slides from over 20 artists. Okay. Often these go into a slide bank so that we have visual reference as well. I spend a lot of time in the galleries in New York. I spend a lot of time looking, it's my life, so I spend a lot of time in museums around the country and around the world, and a lot of time in art magazines. So I try to stay current on what's happening in 20th century art. With that background, and I have a curator, that Connie Butler, who's marvelous and now on board, we talk about what might be appropriate for the museum. We organize about 6 of our own shows, that are originated from the Neuberger, that is by Connie or myself, organized by us, that might or might not travel to other institutions. The other shows come to us by a number of sources. Some are traveling exhibitions that we rent from other institutions. For example, we have one opening in the fall called The Empty Dress, which was organized by ICI. And this is a show that will travel nationally and will be one venue, will be one stop on its national tour. So there are a number of ways of getting the exhibitions.
Do you get artists who will submit their works and say, I'd like to exhibit at the Neuberger?
Oh, yes, many of them, and we're very select. And if we say no, it's usually, there's some good reason behind it. It has to do with our mission, which is, again, twofold, not only to serve the campus, but to serve the general public as well. So we're very conscious of that and make a concerted effort to stay within our mission and our goals and objectives.
One of the things that I like about the Neuberger is that you reach out to the people. You have, what do you call it, where people come in and can have lunch?
Oh, okay, yes. Well, we actually don't have we have our Art Sandwiched In, is what that program is. We actually have a lot of public programs like that. People can bring their lunch. This one is wonderful. People come in, they bring their lunch, they meet in the museum study. We provide coffee and cookies. They have a docent lecture and then a tour through the current exhibition. We also, in conjunction with all of our shows, have a preview reception and generally a lecture called a dialogue at some point during the run of the show. We have over 120 volunteers, 80 of whom do docent tours for us. That are tour guides through the exhibitions, and they're available every day they're available on a daily basis at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So there are many ways to find your way in, to the museum and then through the museum.
What's the best way to see what you have to offer at the museum? Yeah.
Well, I think it's always good. We try to we work very hard on publicity, so generally our shows are in the,
I do see
are in the press.
quite a bit extensive stories in,
Right.
in the media, in the local media.
In the
yeah.
local media, yes.
But when you come to the museum, there's a tendency to rush through and make sure you see everything, or say, I'm only going to see this on this visit. I'm only going to spend 1 hour here, and I'm going to spend it in this one room.
Right.
And
Well,
then
it does depend on your time and your own schedule, certainly. But I would say that a 2-hour visit is optimal because that allows you permanent collection viewing as well as one major installation. If you have a shorter period of time or you're combining it with lunch and PepsiCo, for example, you might come in and shorten that tour. We have what are called theme tours as well, and these can be available to you by call the museum, and the recorded message tells you what the theme tour is, or if we have a person at that moment, we'll tell you.
what is the number that people should call? We certainly want to tell
For
everybody.
information, good. It's 914-251-6100.
Let's say that again.
914-251-6100.
And we'll put it on in the closing
good.
credits so people can have that as well.
Okay.
And one other thing that we should talk about is the location. I know there's more than adequate parking, but how do we get there? Where are you located?
Okay.
For those people who don't know where SUNY Purchase is.
Well, we're 10 minutes from White Plains, off of Anderson Hill Road, on the campus of SUNY Purchase, which is again across from PepsiCo. Once you're on campus, there's very good signage to parking lot, I should say, one. From there are vertical red signs leading you at this moment, unfortunately, through some construction, but vertical red signs leading you to the entrance to the museum.
It's just up a short walkway.
It's a short walkway.
It's very easy to get to.
The museum is between the Humanities Building and the Visual Arts Building.
And I like the fact that you have greeters at the door who make you
Yes.
feel welcome as soon as you walk in, and a lovely
Yes.
shop, which of course is
thank you
very,
for
very
mentioning
important. And
is.
there are
It's
so many things. It's a nice place to go to, and I do go there often. What I like to see is when families are there. I like to see the parents who bring their children, expose them to all this great art, and virtually in your own backyard, as you say, a city museum in a country setting, easy to get to and a wonderful place to go to. Well, I just think it's wonderful that we have such a facility available to us
Not
and
many
so
communities
close.
do.
And it is true, not many communities do. But I don't really see this as being a local museum. I see this as a regional museum. And just as people go into New York City to new museums, 15, 20 minutes, a half hour from anywhere, it's really a marvelous experience to have. And it's great to have it here. And I'm sure delighted that you could come here.
Well, it's my pleasure.
My guest today has been Lucinda Gedeon, who is the director of the Neuberger Museum of Art in Purchase. I thank you for joining us here today. We have some great shows coming up, and I'm sure that if you look forward to them, we'll have a good time together. So until next week at this time, enjoy yourself.